Hello everyone. Namaste. Very warm welcome to this sixth Inclusion Full Circle Dialogue. Today we have Dr. Pooja with us, and she is from Goa. She is from Occupational Therapy and she has done her PhD in Occupational Therapy. So I'm very honored to have her today for our discussion. So let's start with our discussion. Over to you, Dr. Pooja. My first question is, who is Dr. Pooja beyond all her qualifications?
So, first of all, good afternoon, and it is a very nice platform to communicate with all the parents, professionals, and educators. So, as you've asked me a question regarding who is Dr. Pooja, so beyond all my qualification, I see myself as someone who believes in every child and every child who deserves to be understood and be happy before they are being judged. So, this is what I believe in beyond all my qualifications.
That's so kind of you, ma'am. That's so kind of you. Wrapping around the whole identity around children is something which I truly found a profound statement to say. Okay, I would like next to ask is what inspire you to dedicate your life to children with developmental differences?
Yes. So I could say early in my career, I realized that every child who was struggling, along with that, their families were struggling. So they were trying to find out the answer to all their questions. And even the child was trying their best to make the sense from the world. And I felt helping these children and giving a strength to and empower the family gave my work a purpose. So that continued me to inspire for 2 decades to work with these children.
That's actually makes sense. The way you define your identity around those children and the dedication you are putting in supporting those children and the families, they truly align with each other. Because without that much of inspiration, one cannot go for so long.
Thank you.
Next we are moving towards true or false statement. First one is inclusion is only about placing children in regular classroom. Is it true or false?
So you can say it is myth and it is false because inclusion is all about meaningful participation, belonging, and learning. It is not just a physical placement of the child in the classroom. So it's very important that child should belong there and he should be able to participate. So that's what all about the inclusion. So the statement is, I could say, is a false statement.
Yes. Next one is behavior problems are often communication problem. Is it true or false?
So, as what you said, it's often so. It is true because many behaviors are the way of expressing the unmet sensory, emotional, or developmental needs of the children. So, this is the way children express, and when they are not able to express, they definitely show you with the behavioral problems.
Yes, that's why we often say that behavior itself is a communication.
Right.
Next one is every child develops at their own pace. So we should always wait and watch.
Yes. So I would say that while development varies, when we see the persistent delays, we need to understand that this is the time when we have to do early assessment because early intervention leads to better outcomes. So I could say this is a myth. You can't wait always. You just have to see that whether that weight is like supposedly I'll give you examples that say as if it is a child of a 1 year or a child of a 12 months and he's not walking and you are waiting for 13 or 14 months, it's fine, but beyond that you can't wait. So it is not always wait and watch. So it's a
Right.
myth.
So there is a
Okay.
safe limit up to which we can wait, and then we should probably go for the consultation.
Sure. Yes, right, absolutely.
therapy works best when parents become the part of intervention. Is it
Yes.
true or false?
It's absolutely true because parents are the people who are spending most of the time with their children. So it is most important that they become the team member in the therapy. So that's the way I could say that it is a true or a true statement.
Right, right. Play is the most powerful developmental tool. Is it true or false?
uh, Absolutely true. Because as an occupational therapist, also, I would like to say that play is the medium with which we treat the patients, and play builds the brain, and which also develops your motor skills, communication skills, sensory skills, creativity. So it is the most powerful developmental tool.
Yes. Next question is parents often hear about developmental milestones. What foundation should they understand first?
Yes. So milestones are something which is, you could say, which is visible outcome. So parents usually see what is more visible, but then the foundation skills such as their regulation, their sensory processing, muscle tone, body awareness, balance, postural reaction, secure relationship.
Mm-hmm.
These all are the most important foundation skills. Milestones develops much more naturally when you have these foundation skills. So it's very important for the
Right.
parents to understand these skills, and as a therapist or a professional, we have to make the parents understand the importance of these skills.
Mm-hmm. Right. So foundations are the ground on which developmental milestones can be built upon, right?
Yes.
Next one is primitive reflexes are becoming a very popular topic. What are they and why should parents and educator care about that?
Yes. So the first important thing is they need to understand what primitive reflexes are. So they are automatic movements which are present at the birth and which helps the infant to survive and develop. And as the brain matures, these reflexes should integrate. So these reflexes you will not be seeing, but and they will be developing into something mature movement. If they persist and
Okay.
if they are present or retained beyond the expected age, what we see that there will be interference in movement, learning, attention, emotional regulation, and even classroom participation. So that's the reason it is very important that parents and professionals and educators should be aware about it.
Okay. So as you said, they can interfere with the developmental aspects. So that is what my follow-up question is. If they retain, how they affect learning, attention, behavior, handwriting, or even emotional regulation?
Okay. So, when the primitive reflexes are retained, you will find the problems in learning, such a child may be unattentive, clumsy. In behavior, you will find him anxious, fidgety, or in handwriting, you will find that he is struggling with handwriting, or he's avoiding reading, or maybe he gets tired easily, or even overreact emotionally. So, these all are the often signs of immature nervous system, which is
Okay.
not because lack of effort or motivation. So it is basically because of reading primitive reflexes. So this is the way they affect the all the components which you have just described, such as learning, attention, and behavior and writing.
Mm-hmm. Right. At what point should a parent seek assessment instead of waiting? Like we discussed that there is a safe limit. If a child is not walking by 12 months of age, the parent could probably wait for the 30th or 40th month.
Yes.
But where is the defining line that beyond that parent should not wait and go for the proper assessment?
Yes, it's very important because if child, you need to see that if the child is consistently missing an milestone, or he loses onto previously acquired skills, or if you could compare him with the peers, you could mention see that he is still struggling, and teachers and even parents have share ongoing concerns again and again. Then you need to understand it is a time for assessment. So you have to trust your instinct because earlier assessment never harms. Rather, if the support is delayed, definitely it will be harmful. So that is the time when you have to do the assessment.
Okay. If you could identify one commonly missed developmental sign, what would it be?
Yes. So what
Just
happens?
one developmental.
Yes. So what happens with the parents? Before I could say answer it, what happens with the parents? Usually, they if some certain physical milestone is missing, or they have a problem in the speech, or they have a problem in the academics, that's the time they feel that no, this is something they are missing it. But as an occupational therapist or as a professional working in this field, I'll say that difficulty with self-regulation is something which is to be looked out. So it is the child will have challenges in calming down, transitioning, so from going from one activity to another activity, managing their emotions, or sustaining the attention, so which comes into a self-regulation, which can suggest that there is some underlying developmental issue. So that's what parents should look at, rather than
And
waiting for some
would you
milestone missing. We should be waiting for the signs in their self-regulation.
okay, so as you mentioned about the self-regulation is one of the prominent developmental sign which you would look for. So
Yes.
would you be suggesting any time in terms of age, at what age parents can notice about this self regulation? Do you expect self regulation from a 7 months old or 1 year old? What would be that age?
You will be surprised to know that the self-regulation is something which you will see in a newly born baby. So even in an infant, you will see that the infant is trying to self-regulate themselves. So the regulation starts from so early, when the child is able to soothe them down. When they wake up, they are alert. They cry when they're hungry. So all these things usually starts from when they are born. So in the later stages, to see that they are not able to regulate is not so difficult. So maybe there are certain things like sleeping and then waking up and doing physical movements, and crying and being happy, and able to understand when they are hungry. So all this also in the early childhood can be signs wherein you will be able to know whether the child is regulating himself appropriately or not.
That is quite insightful for all of us. We hear the term sensory issues everywhere. What does sensory integration actually means in simple terms so that every parent can understand that?
Okay. So I'll just go with the what is the definition, and I will simplify it. So what sensory integration is the ability of the brain to receive, organize, and respond appropriately to the information from all of our senses. So in simple terms, when a child somebody is throwing ball at the child, and child is seeing the ball. Okay, so child could see the ball, child could see what the speed it is coming to him, and in the brain he can organize himself and try to catch it. So it is the way wherein you are using your sensation, which sensation comes in, organizes in the brain, and then it follows and shows a response. So that is sensory integration is. And it's very important that this process should work efficiently, because that is important for children, for their learning, for their playing, for their socialization, for regulation of their emotions. So it's very important that the sensory integration takes place at the optimum level.
So, sensory integration is one of the domain which enables a child to be independent in later ages, right?
Yes.
How can adults differentiate between a behavioral problem or a sensory need?
Yes. So we need to understand what child is trying to communicate. So if you see that behavior is consistently in certain environment, and you find that it improves after movement or a sensory input, and it is, if it is beyond child's control, then it's definitely a sensory and regulation read rather than a deliberate misbehavior. But when you are able to notice this and you have a question mark on whether it is a sensory issue or whether it is a behavioral issue, so you can always consult a occupational therapist in order, and a behavioral therapist, in order that they will pursue their assessment such as sensory profile or behavior assessment, and be able to demarcate whether it is a sensory issue and behavior issue and give the intervention as well.
Right. What are some subtle sensory signs teacher often miss in a classroom?
Okay. So you could see that teachers, I do understand teachers are having many children in the classroom, and is this small signs and symptoms related to sensory issues is very difficult to pick up. But still, there are few which I will be able to describe. Is like constant fidgeting, leaning onto the furniture, chewing pencils, avoiding messy activities, excessively talking in the class, then covering ears, maybe their poor sitting postures, bumping into classmates, difficulty copying from the board, which is an easily tired during writing tasks. So these are certain signs which you will see in the children who are having sensory issues.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is sensory integration only relevant for the children who are diagnosed with autism, or does it influence every child's development?
Yes. So I could say that just because it is most of the time the sensory integration therapy for autism is being everywhere portrayed, but you need to understand. I really want to speak about it because this is a very interesting thing. That yes, as what the question was, it influences the every child, and we need to understand this also, that every brain is processing the information. So while sensory differences are been seen more in autistic children, but you, or maybe children with developmental milestones or sensory processing issues, but it affects attention, focus, movement, emotional regulation in everyone. So if you see in I just want to mention this example. If you see in the traditional ways, traditional time also, we used to or till date, we tie our children, wrap our children with the cloth when they are baby, or we put them in the swing. We have a voice toy or a mobile toy about the crib. So why it is so? So even in the early time, or we give a child move when child is not sleeping. So therein we all were aware, or our ancestors also were aware that this is something which is to be given to the children, and this is a sensory input which integrates, but maybe it was not scientifically put in that way. But
Right.
definitely this is something which is there in the environment and important for each and every child.
That's what I was thinking when you mentioned that about the classroom subtle signs which teachers may miss sometimes, because every second or third child is not interested in writing work. They are chewing the pencil or some other stuff.
Yes.
So it is quite often to see in a classroom.
Yes. So to differentiate whether it is a sensory processing issue or whether it is just a behavior, it may be difficult for a teacher. But at the same time, a lot many times these sensory processing issues can lead to behavioral issues also. So if they are not being tackled early, they will probably show into some behavioral issues. So, the link between your primitive reflexes, sensory integration, your behavior problems is subtle, and it's very difficult to make it a point and understand this is something which is lacking. So, when we are assessing and we are giving intervention, it should be holistic and understanding everything about the child.
Mhm. One query I'm coming up with is that, which I usually see myself when I am dealing with the children, is that When something is sensory in nature, it is not restricted to one behavior or one particular activity. It will be in a spectrum. You will see related and associated things with it. And when it is a behavior only, it is very specific. That's what I see in many children.
Yes, so that's the reason I maybe on your question when you said differentiate between behavioral problem and sensory needs, and I have told you there that if it is a consistent behavior in certain environments and it is improving after some sensory input, and you're seeing that behavior everywhere, almost in all similar situations, then you need to understand definitely child is having some sensory processing issues.
Right, right. Next one is sensory friendly change every preschool can make tomorrow.
Yes. So, very important is build movement into a day. So, if we can have a movement break, so after 30 to 45 minutes, if you have some movement break, it will help them to improve their attention, the regulation, and which will help all the children, not just the children who are having some special needs. So, it's very important that in between, if they could give a movement break activity.
So, do you have any specification to suggest regarding movement break? Because as I see in the preschool setups, they will probably come up that every every 50 to 20 minutes we change the activity or some kind of transition is there. So,
Yes.
do you still recommend movement break or are there any specification?
The movement break should be, wherein our whole body is involved and the bigger joints also are involved, I could say. So it is about stretching or giving them animal walks or push pull activities.
Mhm.
So, wherein the entire body is getting input, that kind of activities will, or a jumping, bit of a bouncing.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
these activities will help them better rather than giving simple activities only which are fine motor activities or just transitioning from one activity to another activity.
Right. So it's more about gross movement where the whole body is get regulated at
Right.
once.
Yes.
Okay. What is the biggest misconception schools have about inclusion?
Yes. So that the biggest misconception by over 20 years when I have seen is that inclusion is about supporting only children with disabilities. So inclusion is not only supporting disabilities, but it creates a better learning environment which every child by embracing diverse ways of learning as well as participating. So, there has to be diverse ways of learning so that the child could participate. Not only the children with special needs, but also every child, even a typically developing child.
Right. What separates an inclusive classroom from a classroom that simply accommodates children? What is the difference?
So when we say accommodation help a child to fit into that particular classroom. But when we speak about the inclusion, we have to see that the every child genuinely belongs, participates, and contributes and succeeds. So it's very important that the child should belong and participate uh, and contributes in that classroom, not just fits in that classroom.
Right. So active participation is the key difference between accommodation and the inclusive classroom.
Yes.
What role should occupational therapists play inside schools, not just in therapy clinics?
Yes. So many a times, occupational therapist being the you could say that very they are very less and few in number. So you will only see them in the clinics or maybe in academic facilities, and very less in the same. I think same is true for the speech therapist. because since there is number which is less, and even the colleges which are less, which is unfortunately colleges which are less, and unfortunately the therapists which are less. What happens? We only see them in the clinic. But what is the role of occupational therapists in the school? Is they should collaborate with the teachers. They should observe the children in the real life settings, so real classroom settings, modify the environment, improve, build the teachers' capacity, and support meaningful participation, and create a classroom for every child so that the child engages in it successfully. So this is beyond, so herein we are working with the children, and even the group activities for children, and working on their sensory needs, their daily activities, or their fine motor skills, their visual perception. But apart from that also, it is important that occupational therapists should teach, or train the teachers to recognize development, sensory and emotional needs early, and provide practical classroom strategies, and conduct regular workshops for teachers as well as parents on the topics such as child development, behavior, emotional regulation, inclusion, and stress management. This is very important, that if we empower teachers and families, it will create a strong support system around every child, making the intervention more consistent, sustainable, and effective. So, apart from working with the children, working with the teachers and parents and conducting workshops and training is going to help in a holistic way.
Yes, it will create a kind of ecosystem where everyone understands the responsibility and participates equally. My next question is, if every school could adopt just one practice to become more inclusive, what would you recommend?
Yes. So, if we want it to be more inclusive, I would say that has to be we have to adopt a universal design for learning. So, what do you mean by universal design for learning? So, the lesson should be planned in such a way that there are multiple ways for children to learn, participate, and demonstrate understanding. So, if you give any, if you have a goal of teaching children numbers, so you might have a multiple ways for children to learn that activity, so that each child will feel included. Alongside, as I told just now, that even the parents and teachers here are the most important people who should be trained for these inclusive practices. So it's not only going to happen
Right.
that you just work on the children, adopt certain way of learning. So when schools invest in well-being of the well-being and knowledge of the adults, we are developing a resilient ecosystem that empowers teachers, support families, and it will also help the childs who are enable the child in thriving. So very important that along with this, you also work on the parents and teachers.
Right. You need to complete this sentence. Every child belongs because.
Yes. So as I always say, every child belongs because it's its fundamental right, and every child has inherent value, his unique strength, and right to learn, participate, and accepted exactly the as the way they are. So this is what I would say.
What does inclusion full circle means to you?
Yes. So, since the entire topic was around inclusion, and this topic also was inclusion full circle, for me, inclusion full circle means a world where every child is understood, supported,
Mhm.
empowered, and celebrated. Not only in the therapy rooms, but at in home, in the schools, in the playground, and in the community. So it's when inclusion is beyond policies and becomes the way of thinking, teaching, and living. So true inclusion is complete when we children don't imply simply have a seat in a classroom, but they have a voice, meaningful participation, genuine friendship, and opportunities to reach their fullest potential. So that's what the inclusion coming to full circle truly means. So it's not only the child belong to that classroom, but he should be able to participate in the community, and we should not stick only to the policies, but that should become the way of thought and way of learning for every individual.
I just can say is that I'm quite in a process, because we have just an intensive discussion which is truly empowering, encouraging, inspiring, and I'm hoping that more and more people come into this inclusion circle, take the responsibility, lead towards an inclusive society, and practices on a daily basis, not just in terms of conversation in papers, or just hold accountable to a one person for inclusion. All of us need to come forward in a collective manner and lead this responsibility in a collective manner, where not only the children, parents, teachers, educators, everyone can belong, everyone can participate, everyone can feel supported. So that's what I could conclude from the discussion we had just now. So thank you very much, ma'am, for your time, for saying yes and sharing your insights and experience with us. I hope it reaches to the maximum people. They understand the importance of this discussion and find it quite motivated, so that wherever they are in journey of inclusion, they can take one step forward from that. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you too, Dr. Nidhi, because it's really great to have such sessions and to try so much for the inclusion and involving most of the professionals, educators, parents, and in turn, I hope that it will reach to the entire world and the society, and inclusion goes on and persists, because each one belongs, and I feel each one should get that opportunity. And I really appreciate all your efforts doing so. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, ma'am.